much for coming today. We're gonna get started. So, welcome everyone. My name is Khaled Rocha, and I am a Vice President of Investments and Private Client Advisor for JP Morgan Wealth Management. I am based out of Houston, Texas now. I used to be in Boston, but I just moved down here. And I am a member of the DLE Culture Chat Committee. So today I will be your moderator. So the DLE is a business-oriented open forum that examines changes and challenges in today's workplace, which is why we asked guests to fill the poll out for us earlier today. So today, in just 60 minutes, we engage multiple perspectives through a moderated format that promotes respectful conversations about vital topics for career success with actionable takeaways. Our goal is to help you grow what you know and who you know in a welcoming, supportive professional environment. Of course, the sustained sponsorship of Dooley & Co. Consultancy enables Culture Chat and other of our DLE programs to be free. So thank you, Dooley & Co. Today, we have a blend of members and newcomers joining in from diverse regions, industries, and positions. So please, let's take a few seconds to connect. In the chat box, type in your name, your company name as well, your title, your location, where you're joining us from. And if you like, please add your LinkedIn URL so we can grow who you know. So I'm going to take a quick second and do that myself. There we go. And perfect. And thank you so much. Hey Rico, yeah, long time. I had a feeling that was you. I actually, Rico and I were in the same class together at Syracuse, and I was like, I know that name. So thank you for sharing, Elizabeth. Thank you, Pittsfield. We got Rico in Indonesia, so we're international today. This is fantastic. This is great to hear from somebody across the world and somebody that I used to. We live on the same floor at Day Hall. Allison, thank you. All right, so perfect. Real quick, some ground rules. For now, just please stay on mute so there's no interruptions. If you want to speak, just use the raise hand feature down at the bottom there in the Zoom. Or you can also use the chat box as well. We do that for comments, for questions that are relevant to the topic. And just if we do call you when you raise your hand, just please remember to unmute so it just flows mostly smoothly. As a reminder, the first 20 minutes will be just a quick, no, they're being recorded. So then you guys can go back to it in YouTube once it's published. But we will stop recording for breakouts for privacy. So, and a quick shout out for the volunteers to make this happen, this Culture Chat volunteers. First, Allison Schmidt, Executive Director of E4O Berkshire County in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Aaliyah Marrow, filmmaker, ASM Productions, based in Durham, North Carolina. Kate Abbott, freelance writer and editor of BTW Berkshires, and she's based in Williamstown, Massachusetts. Josh Brilliant, systems test engineer, General Dynamics Mission Systems in Pittsfield, Mass. Morgan Mayer, copywriter, Bridge House Media in St. Petersburg, Florida, and myself in Texas. So we're across the country as well. So good to have that in the audience now. So, okay, without further ado, I would love to introduce today's topic and our today's conversation. So, what is today's conversation going to be like? Well, it's going to be led by Evan Hickok. He is, excuse me, got a little thing in my throat. So we have a special guest joining us from the United Kingdom today. So we are international, who will help us get started. Evan is a zealot for understanding what makes teams thrive and unlock their full potential. He has leveraged his interest for building high-performing teams into a weekly newsletter called Lighthouse Leadership and content creation on LinkedIn. After earning a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Massachusetts, Evan worked his way up from intern to leadership roles in engineering and manufacturing departments at General Electric and General Dynamics. Throughout his 2-decade experience in major corporations, Evan has conducted extensive research on the differences between successful and struggling teams. So we're really happy to have him here today. He created an onboarding process for a Fortune 100 company, which accelerated productivity of over 500 new hires through their connections. So Evan, thank you so much for being with us here today. Love to learn more about you. Please go ahead.
Khaled, thank you so much. And I'd also like to double your thanks for the volunteers. We've had several dry runs, and so this program is better because of them. So thank you, everybody. Um, all right, let's jump into it. Nicole, you mind just launching a poll? We're going to ask two polls here just off the start. Um, I'm wondering what your perspective is. What percentage of managers do you think fail in their first 24 months? What percentage of managers do you think fail in their first 24 months? Watching the results come in. Little pessimistic group. I admire your pessimism because you're right on. Let's look at these results here. So 40% say between 40 and 60%. Um, Actually, I guess 70% say greater than 40%. That's a pessimistic group, and we'll reveal the true answer on the next slide. Um, we've got one more poll here. What percentage of managers do you think get trained? What percentage of managers do you think get trained? Okay, you guys know the data. You know the data. Let's go to the next slide here. So we're seeing 65% of people say under 20%. So it's true, right? So Forbes magazine tells us that 60% of new managers fail in the first 24 months. And it also tells us that, or People magazine, an HR publication, say that 82% of these managers never get trained. So pretty much right in line with what you're guessing, or maybe you knew. So I think there's an opportunity here to differentiate yourself. You can differentiate yourself by taking ownership of your leadership development agenda. So let's look at the next slide here and talk about what a goal might look like. So this is Sarah Calderon. She is Google's people developer, and I've been carrying this quote around me for about 6 years. This is from a 2017 podcast. She says, "A great manager will make a tough job challenging and rewarding, and they'll make a great job fantastic and transformational. But a bad manager will make a great job so-so and a tough job soul-crushing." I love this quote. So, which of these managers have you had? Both. Which one do you want to be? Right? We're setting our goal here. I think we all want to be a great manager. Let's go to the next slide. So, this is a radio factory in the 1920s. Want to just kind of contrast your workplace to this? How does it look the same? How does it look different? I think some of the things that I see, this is like a single generation workforce. This is the 1920s. This would have been my great grandparents' generation. It's not really that long ago, but it's really a single generation workforce. No diversity. There's no women. Everybody appears to be white, male. There's also one decider and 100 doers, right? So you've probably heard this term before, VUCA, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, right? That's today's world. I've read that in the last 10 years, we've had 100 years of progress in society and technology, right? I think Gen Z is the first generation to grow up with social media. I'm also reading that in the next 4 years, we're going to see another 100 years of change because of AI. So this is really the VUCA world that we live in. And so one of the things that this means is that we need to yield more decision power to our teams. One more thing I like to note in this photograph here. The gentleman in the photograph, his name is Arthur Otwire Kent. He obviously runs this radio factory. He's not building radios. So when you become a manager, you are Arthur Kent. You're no longer building radios, but your job is actually harder than his was because of the VUCA world. Okay, next slide. So I want to introduce this idea called the performance pipeline. This is a very important book. It's actually a series of 3. I've read them all. It goes leadership pipeline, performance pipeline, succession pipeline. Very important books by Stephen Trotter. So what he shows here is in your career, you may go through 6 passages from leading self to being the enterprise leader, being the chief executive. You'll have more than 6 promotions, likely, right, to chief executive, but there are 6 passages where everything's going to change. You start leading self. You start by leading self. You go through passage 1. You start leading others. That's the hardest passage to make, according to Drotter. The second hardest passage is passage 4, business leader, which is where I learned about this concept. So when I had struggles making passage 4 to business leader, the thing that I learned when I found this book is that I had not completed passage 1. So at each one of these passages, you need to make a shift. You need to make a shift in your skills, your work values, and your time management, or even what time means to you. It's also time horizons. Time management meaning the thing you spend your time doing, time horizons meaning how far out do you think? Those people building radios, they're not thinking out very far. They're probably thinking out to their first break. But the gentleman running the radio factory is thinking out a lot further, right? You need to do the same when you become a manager. Okay, let's look at the next slide here. And I just want to show just a little example of the results later. So the individual contributor layer is delivering product. If this is a pizza shop, they're making pizzas, handing them to customers. When you become that manager, you're no longer making pizzas, at least not all the time. You are now in an enabling layer. You're creating role clarity, you're training, you're coaching, you're hiring, you're making sure your pizza shop has all the right ingredients of the right quality to deliver your product. You're enabling that delivery layer. You're making sure the schedule is lined up for that big rush you got coming up on the holiday weekend and for the dinner time sort of stuff, right? The job is completely different. Next slide. So what we're talking about here is really you need to make a mindset shift. What got you here won't get you there, as Marshall Goldsmith says. So on the next slide, we're going to talk about 2 differentiating shifts, right? What we've established here, right? 60% of managers fail. Only 18% of them ever get trained. That's your opportunity to differentiate yourself through self-development. And we're going to talk about these shifts. So you're going to shift from doing to delegation and from fixing to feedback. Now, this is a couplet. Doing to delegation, fixing to feedback. So if you don't delegate, you run out of daylight and your team runs out of work, right? Sometimes people don't delegate because the people they're delegating to, the work won't be as good as yours, at least not yet. So you need to help them grow with feedback. That's why this is a couplet. You need to remember that the present you is better than the past you. And the present you is not as good as the future you will be. And you also need to allow that growing in your team. If you fix their work, if you delegate and then they give you garbage and you fix it, you're teaching your team to atrophy, right? The feedback is an important element here. I like to use this example when I talk about this stuff with my children. My children used to think that snack time meant they asked me for a snack. I hand them a granola bar. They take the wrapper off, throw the wrapper on the ground and go. And now my job is to take the wrapper, pick it up off the ground and put it in the garbage. When you fix your team's work, that's what you're training to do. You're training them to give you bad work that you then fix. Instead, you need to give feedback. Okay, next slide. I just want to nail this home. You have a team for a reason. A team is a stable group of people interdependent in achieving a shared goal. That's the definition of a team. There's only 2 reasons why you have a team. Either you need to add people to deliver at scale, or you need to add expertise to deliver your scope. So in that pizza shop, make a great pizza. I can make like maybe 5 pizzas an hour, right? A busy pizza shop makes 100 pizzas an hour. I need to add people to deliver that. I'm also a terrible software engineer. I'm a good systems engineer. I'm a good program manager. I'm a terrible software engineer, right? So when I need software in the solution I'm delivering, I'm going to add expertise. I'm not a very good financial analyst. When I need financial analysis in my solution, I'm going to add expertise to deliver that scope. So you have a team for a reason. You need to use them. So let's talk about delegation on the next slide. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of this framework, and then we'll dive into each one of these steps. So this is a 5-step framework where the steps are a preparation framework. Obviously, you need to prepare. You need to know the work, know the team, and you need to prepare for the delegation itself. And then when you get into delegation, it's just 5 parts of that. You want to describe the project. Step 2 is to give context. Step 3 is to give parameters. 4 is to give a vision of the future when this project has been completed successfully. And then step 5 is to give them their level of authority. Let's dive into this in the next slide. Okay, so in the preparation, you need to know your work and know your team. Let me start by saying that a project to one person may be an action to another. If the thing that we are collaborating on together is a Thanksgiving dinner, and you ask me to make an apple pie, well, that's an action for me. I can make an apple pie, no problem. I've done it many times. But if you ask my 4-year-old to make an apple pie, well, you're assigning her a project, right? There's a big difference. So you need to know your team. So, and you also need to know the work. So when you're running out of daylight, I guarantee you've got a lot of delegatable tasks. You might have recurring tasks you can delegate, like a meeting. You can ask somebody to start handling a weekly meeting for you. Or some people have somebody who actually manages their email inbox to help them find the important stuff. You might be delegating an action item, project. You might delegate the management of an entire department or a business unit. I think in any of these cases, and I've worked a lot of very complex projects, you can still follow this 5-step framework. It might change the way you document it. The project is often documented in a project charter, but action items might be an email or even a text message. But you're still going to answer the same 5 questions. Okay, so then on knowing the team side, right, again, you need to know what skills you want to be developing and which skills you should be leveraging. So if we go back to the pizza shop, right, you might have somebody who's brand new, who's never made a pizza. It's their first day. You've got skills you need to develop here. You might have somebody else, Jane, who has been making pizzas for a long time, and you can leverage her skills to train this newcomer, right? Just an example, in a single delegation, you might be developing some skills and leveraging others, right? Your business is likely improving. Your career will improve. You need to backfill yourself. So you need to balance developing your team and also leveraging their team. So this is just in the preparation phase when you're defining what to delegate and to whom you're going to delegate it. Okay. Next slide. Okay. Step 1 is describing the project. What you're trying to do is just give a precise and succinct overview of the task or the project that needs to be completed. Include a description of the intended outcome. You're just trying to set some direction and create meaningful work. Now, a key here is to start with a verb. If I say, listen to the difference of these 2 actions. Quarterly financial report due to the finance department by July 15th. Now, how about this one? Submit the quarterly financial report to the finance department by July 15th. Which one's more clear? The one that starts with the verb. Start with a verb. You can Google how to write a good action item, and you will find lists of action verbs very, very clearly. How about this one? Create good action verb. Create a 1-page memorandum for our new product by November 1st. Book a venue for our quarterly offsite by July 31st. This book of venue one is an example I'm going to kind of weave throughout the rest of this framework. So when you clarify, what you're trying to do is clarify both the action and the ownership with that action verb. If you establish that at the outset, you're setting off everything for success. When this isn't done well, people hand you the wrong thing, or they tug at your shirt, and ask you lots of follow-up questions. Those sorts of things will still happen as you improve the skill and you and your team learn how to communicate with each other, but give it some practice and you'll nail it. Okay, step 2, give some context. So context, what you're trying to do is give them the why. You're trying to connect it to something larger, right? If in step 1, I said like, hey, let's bake a cake for tomorrow's dinner. It's got to be a really, really good cake. You'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to make a bad cake, of course. But now in step 2, if I add context and say, well, the queen is coming over for dinner tomorrow. I'm in England, or the king now, right? You'd be like, oh, yeah, I got to make a really, 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 really good cake, right? You're helping somebody understand that the thing that they're delivering is part of a larger piece of a puzzle. People want to be connected to something larger than just the thing that they're doing, but it also helps the task owner fill in some of the gaps in your incomplete delegation language. So it's important to give context. So if we look at our book a venue example, right? I'm going to say book a venue for our quarterly book a venue for our quarterly offsite by July 31st. That's the action. Now adding context. Our quarterly offsite is an important time to build our teamwork, to focus on a tough problem, to get re-engaged in our mission, vision, value statement. I'm connecting the action to something larger. Now, this doesn't have to be complicated. You can do this instead of bullets. You can do it in a narrative, whichever feels comfortable to you. Okay, next slide. Let's talk about parameters. So in the parameters, we're really just defining the boundaries or specific conditions under which this task should be completed. Budgets, timeframes. You might provide resources, prior work, templates, passwords, make it look like this, right? So I guess adding on to the venue example, we might say like the offsite shall have plenty of wall space for windows for a post-it based workshop, which is how we do our offsites. It should have a TV screen to project slides. It's got to fit 10 people comfortably. It could be desks or table space. So we're giving some allowance, kind of a range of ideas. We want coffee and food available. Could be on the premises, could be brought in, outdoor space, budget, $1,000 for the day, right? Oh, and don't use XYZ because they did not work last time, right? We're just defining the parameters to help them understand what success looks like. These are the things that you would be thinking of if you were doing the task yourself. Okay, number 4, I really like this one. This is a vision of the future when everything's completed, right? When this thing is executed perfectly, here's what it looks like. We're just trying to tie things together. So I guess in this example, we might say the venue's booked on time, the venue's within budget, all the meeting details are arranged, the environment's comfortable for the team, everybody's engaged, we walk out refreshed, aligned, and reinvigorated, right? Just trying to help tie together when you nail this thing, this is what it will feel like to all of us. And then the last step is their clear level of authority. This comes from somebody named Michael Hyatt, who talks about this really, really well. So what you're doing is you're establishing the level of authority for the person that you are giving the task. So level 1, just reading the slide, do exactly as instructed without deviation. Do exactly this. This is kind of what you do when you go to McDonald's, right? You know, I just want this cheeseburger with no ketchup or whatever, right? Like do exactly what's instructed without deviation. Next one, gather information and report back. If this were Thanksgiving dinner, you know, you might be saying, please bring me some apple pie recipes. Bring them back to me, apple pie recipes. Or 3, research, propose options, and recommend a course of action. So find some apple pie recipes and recommend, tell me which one you think is the best. So I actually ran a post-COVID campus strategy study for a 1 million square feet facility with 1,600 employees, 4 buildings, you know, it's a big deal. And so I got level 4 authority there. I'm sorry, I got level 3 authority there. I researched options. I gave a recommended selection and all my backup data why I thought that was a recommendation. I don't get level 4, which is decide and tell them what I did, because this is like a CEO level decision that needs to be made, right? So I got level 3 there. So level 4 is decide and inform the delegator of the action taken. I did it. Here you go. And level 5, you don't even need to tell me what you did. You got it. So what we're doing is we're painting a clear picture of what you want done and what the level of authority is for the person that you're delegating to. All right, so just trying to tie everything together here. If we go back to our example, book a venue for our quarterly offsite by July 31st. Our offsite's an important time to build our teamwork, to focus on a tough problem, and get re-engaged in our mission, vision, value statement. Okay, so you walk through the parameters, right? Just to summarize, right? Then you describe a clear picture of the win. The venue's booked on time, it's within budget. And I'm giving them level 4. Decide the venue and inform the delegator to inform me of your action taken. Tell me what the venue is. So in the bonus material, there's a 2-minute video that describes situation, behavior, impact, feedback better than I can do it in 2 minutes. So fill out the evaluation, you'll get the bonus material and watch that 2-minute video. here's really the game changer for me. This is called the Johari window. So there are some things that are known to others that you also know, right? Look at this intersection. This is the public self, right? Those are things that are known to others and also known to yourself. Then there are things that are known to self that are not known to others. That's called the private self, right? So I don't think my kids know what book I'm reading right now. I'm reading To Kill a Mockingbird. It's not a secret, but I just haven't shared it with them. So that's just a private self, right? But here's the key: known to others, not known to self. This is the definition of your blind spot. People know it, you don't. If you leave a restroom and you've got toilet paper stuck to your shoe and you're about to walk on stage, you want somebody to point it out before you walk on stage, right? If somebody is not doing the delegated task the way you expected, give them feedback, help them grow. Chances are there's problems on both sides. Chances are there were mistakes made in the delegation portion and there were mistakes made in the execution portion. So in that feedback conversation, you can handle both and you'll both grow.